FIFA, next time, how often is the World Cup? Every 4 years or so, give or take? Yeah, next time, call Jay. Next time, call Jay. Hello and welcome to Queen Things. I'm KJ Miller, founder, lecturer, content creator, and I'm excited to be chatting with you because we have a lot to chat about today. It's another pop culture rundown, lots of things to discuss. Let me look at my list. Well, we got to get into some of your comments from my World Cup video. I spoke about the World Cup. That's not true. I didn't speak at all about the World Cup. Could I tell you right now who even won the World Cup? Spain. I think it was Spain. No, I spoke about the halftime show and I posted about it. And I don't know, maybe like 150,000 of you have watched that video and had thoughts. So we'll get into some of your thoughts. I want to talk about Anne Hathaway's recent speech at the Human Rights Campaign gala. It looks like she was the National Ally for Equality awardee. She gave a really, really great speech. I wanted to dive into that a little bit. There was a very interesting article in The Cut about Gen Z essentially financing their boyfriends' lifestyles. I want to talk about that. I want to get into a little bit of a video of mine that's gone viral where I'm talking about Taylor Swift's vocals. It's gone viral over on TikTok. It might be kind of sort of getting a little bit of play over on IG as well, but mainly on TikTok. I want to talk about that. I do want to circle back to the Jen Hamilton conversation. When I briefly mentioned it prior, she was still in the I don't want people talking about it mode. So I was like, I'm not going to say too much. Now she is talking all about it. So I feel like we've been given the green light to discuss as well. Like I would never make a bunch of videos about something and then feel like no one else can talk about it. That's just me. I think she's giving us the green light. So I do want to touch on that a bit, some developments there. And then maybe a few more bips and bops, and maybe I'll end with what I'm reading. And that's going to be the episode. So let's get into it right after our announcements. And what is the announcement? The announcement is simply for July, we are not going to have a bonus episode. I have not skipped a single month of bonus content, but this is my vacation month. And I know I took my 2 weeks and I'm just going to let myself not have a bonus for this month. And I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And if that really pisses you off, let me know and I'll figure out something. Maybe I'll do 2 in August. Okay. I need July to feel like a little bit of a breath. Okay. That's the announcement, but we will get back to our regularly scheduled bonus content in August. And those are the announcements. So let's jump in. Okay. So I basically posted my entire clip of my entire take on the World Cup final show or final halftime show. I condensed it to make it social media appropriate, but basically the take was about all the very confusing and befuddling performances. So one of the most comments here is from someone named Marco Elisto. He says, I hate the way people have normalized Justin Bieber giving mediocre performances. Yes, Marco. Yes, Marco. Say it louder for the people in the back. We have coddled this man to the point of being generally just perfectly fine with him turning in the sleepiest, saddest performances, no matter the venue. Coachella, where you've got, how many people show up to Coachella? It looks like a swarm of millions from what I've seen. You have so many people in the heat, in the desert. I mean, using buckets for toilets. That's how badly these people want to see you, Justin. And you showed up with a laptop, okay? And not even a particularly new looking laptop. A laptop and played YouTube videos. Then we're at the FIFA World Cup. FIFA or FIFA? Doesn't matter. We're at the World Cup halftime show for the final. And you show up with one guitar, no backup singers, no band, not even a particularly nice outfit, and sing the sleepiest song. It is mediocre. It is mediocre. And what's so maddening about it is the reason you are Justin Bieber is because you have talent. You have talent, you have skill, and you have money. So if you wanted to put on a great show, you could have. but you don't want to. And we have normalized it. And by we, I mean y'all. I have not normalized it, okay? Because I have called this man out every single solitary time he has done this. Y'all have normalized it. And I guess if y'all like it, you like it. But I think that's weird. Okay, that was a very well-liked performance. Comment. Okay, then a few comments about BTS. I saw a lot of people saying this. This one from India. BTS is on a world tour. They flew from Paris right after they got off stage to the World Cup to perform. And then another person named Park Jimin said BTS had 1 minute and 30 seconds. They did this while still on tour currently, all caps. Of course, they aren't going to sound the best. Okay. And then right below that, someone else, BTS literally got on a flight from Paris the night before because they are in the middle of a massive tour. They didn't get to America till like 8 or 9 a.m. the day of the World Cup. They had no time to rehearse and they were damn tired. Okay. So many of you, BTS fans want me to know that they were on a world tour. They are on a world tour. They were very tired. They got right off the stage, like they finished singing that song, jumped from the stage onto a plane, flew overnight, landed at 8 a.m., were carted to the World Cup stage, no time to rehearse, no time to do a vocal warm-up, no time to do a jumping jack. They just, boom. That's what y'all have told me. And you know what? I believe it. I'm not even going to question if any of that is true. Here's what I will say to it, though. Who made them do that? Not me. Not me. I didn't make them do that. Like you chose to do that. You knew you were on a world tour and you knew this was going to be one of the most watched events of the year. And you decide, and you knew the timetable would be tight. Now, to me, I should not have to lower my expectations of a performance based on your constraints when you are performing at that level, particularly if you're not going to give any kind of disclaimer. It's not as if they started off the set being like, hello, announcement before we sing this song. We just want everyone to know we've gotten no sleep and we just got here and we're a little bit tired. So it's not going to be quite as great. It's not as if they gave that announcement. They went on as if it were any other show. So they didn't expect me to think less of the set. And I didn't. I expected what I have come to expect from BTS, and they didn't deliver. So I guess now they've learned that lesson. Maybe the next time somebody calls them up and says, hey, will you fly across, the world overnight right after a show to do another show on a world stage? Maybe they'll say no. So maybe lesson learned, but it doesn't change the fact that it wasn't great and it should have been great. I think it should have been great and it wasn't. All right. So that was another comment I got a lot of people basically saying Jay-Z needs to take over for FIFA next. From Grown and Glowing, she says, I guess Jay-Z will be working with FIFA next. I see Vi Ford says this halftime show solidified Jay-Z's hold on the NFL halftime show. And I have to agree. Listen. These last few halftime shows have been so good. Kendrick Lamar was fantastic. Bad Bunny was fantastic. Who was before Kendrick? Oh, Usher. Usher was before Kendrick. Great job. Before that was Rihanna. Now, my personal opinion on Rihanna's performance might be controversial. I think everybody did a fantastic job with that performance except Rihanna. I think Rihanna, she was a little lackadaisical. And I know she was pregnant. She was a little lackadaisical. But every single other person in the spectacle of it all, fantastic. And there was no reason for Jay to think it wouldn't be a great show other than the fact that Rihanna has in the past been a little bit up and down as a live performer. I don't need the Navy hating on me. I need y'all to go watch some performances and tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying. She is fantastic in so many ways, but when it comes to live performances, I've seen just as many great as mediocre from her. But Rihanna's also Jay-Z's homegirl, so, it made sense. Oh, the Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem year, that was also great. That also was great. The Weeknd, I personally didn't love it, but fine, fine, fine. He was a very, very big artist. Shakira and J-Lo, they were fantastic. Like, these halftime shows under his guidance, I don't know exactly when he took over, but these halftime shows have been fantastic. By and large, fantastic. So yeah, FIFA, next time, how often is the World Cup? Every 4 years or so, give or take? Yeah, next time, call Jay. Next time, call Jay. Oh, the other comment I got a lot of, and I'm not seeing an example here to call out, but here's one. This is from someone named Sada89. First mistake is even having a halftime show. Like, that was stupid in itself. Never, ever has a football World Cup ever had one. And I got that comment a lot, both on TikTok and on IG. A lot of y'all said, this should never have happened. So I didn't know that. I did not know that the World Cup has never had a halftime show. Me, because I don't care about sports, I only show up when there's a halftime show. So I'm assuming everyone's doing halftime shows. Like, what are we even here for? Apparently, the actual sport. So a lot of people did let me know there's never been one, and most real football fans didn't want one. It wouldn't have mattered what was happening on that stage because all they cared about was the football. The stakes were too high. And you know what? That's fair. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. So maybe no matter what had happened, y'all wouldn't have liked it. Me, someone like me, I'm always going to tune in for a halftime show. But my expectations of a halftime show, particularly something like this that the whole world is watching, my expectations are very high. And they did not deliver. Let's move right along to Anne Hathaway's speech at the HRC, where she received the HRC National Ally for Equality Award. Let's play a little clip.
With the exception of being a cisgender male, everything about how I was born has put me at the current center of a damaging and widely accepted myth. That myth is that gayness orbits around straightness, transgender orbits around cisgender, and that all races orbit around whiteness. And it is a myth that keeps money and power in the hands of the few instead of being invested in the lives of the free. I appreciate this community so much because it's where I learned to reject this myth. I appreciate this community because together, we are not just going to question this myth, we are going to destroy it.
Yes, Anne Hathaway. I know that's right. Oh, I love Anne Hathaway. And you know what? I'm not one of these fair weather fans who hated Anne Hathaway from, like, what was it? 2016 to 2019 or something, where people just started hating on her because she was winning too many awards. And I don't know, girl. They did. I did not. I never hated you. I like you. And I really do feel like Anne Hathaway has risen up amongst Blacks. She has risen up to that tier, that sought after tier, where 9 Blacks out of 10, when asked about Anne Hathaway, are going to say something positive. Now, where did I get that statistic? I made it up. But do I believe it? I do. I just feel like she has been walking the walk for a while as it relates to Black people, as it relates to the gay community, because she's accepted an ally award from HRC before, back in 2008, I believe, for being such a great ally to the LGBT community. And, she doesn't put up with bullshit. I fuck with Anne Hathaway, and I think the average Black person does as well. It's hard to get to that level as a white. It's hard to get to the level where the majority of Black people are like, not just like, oh, you're cool, but like, no, I fuck with you. I really do fuck with you. That's not easy. She's gotten there. I really appreciate the speech, not because she said anything so profound. Everything she said, it's not only true, but I would argue well known. It's the fact that she said it loud, said it proud, said it with her whole chest, and is committed to the work of dismantling white supremacy and the patriarchy and doesn't shy away from that, even though right now is a time where it is very expedient to shy away from it. Hello, Sydney Sweeney, very expedient to pretend like I don't ever want to say anything about politics. I just want to be very coy because I don't want to lose my MAGA fan base. Anne isn't that way at all. Mind you, she's on the biggest movie of the year right now. She is on the Odyssey, in the Odyssey. And she's one of the people that the racist MAGAs are so happy is in the film because she's not Black. So she's one of the few, people that they are actually lauding because she's white. Is she Greek? As far as I know, she is not. But she is white, so to them, that's fine. They're mad at Lupita and Zendaya and anybody else who isn't white being in the film. So this could be a moment for her to open her arms and embrace the MAGAs and the MAGUs and the MAGettes who want to embrace her and her whiteness. And she is not standing for that. She is saying very loudly and proudly, no, fuck that. And I appreciate her for that, for always being willing to speak up and speak out against racist, patriarchal, homophobic bullshit. She's always been willing to, and I appreciate her for that. So shout out to you, Anne Hathaway. You're okay with this. I'm jumping all over the place. I'm going to talk about Taylor now and her vocals. I don't want to repeat too much of what I've already shared over on social. We'll include the link of my take. The basic gist of what I shared was that she's a better vocalist than people like to give her credit for. She gets tons of credit for her songwriting and her lyricism and her skills as a musician, right? The fact that she plays multiple instruments, the fact that she's been doing so since she was, 3, like she gets a lot of credit for those things and very little credit for her vocals. And I do understand that because as I shared in my videos, she is not someone I would call a vocal powerhouse. That said, I think she uses her vocals incredibly well. She is very intentional about the instrument that she does have. And I think she is skilled in ways that maybe a lot of people don't even realize are skilled, are technically difficult. So I spoke about the fact that she sings primarily in a straight tone, no vibrato. And even though to the ear that might sound simple, it is difficult for most singers to do because most singers default to having vibrato, myself included. It is way, way harder for me to sing a note, hold a note with a straight tone than to hold a note with vibrato. And she sings the vast majority of her notes straight toned. And because she's been doing it for so long, she's gotten very, very good at it and has developed it as a strength in a way that other singers have not. Probably because they haven't wanted to. Like, I think vibrato sounds very nice. And so there's no reason to just say, like, I'm going to completely eliminate it from my singing vocabulary. It sounds very nice. But because that is a decision that she has largely made, she's built it up as a real strength and a strength that many other singers don't have. And I don't think she gets a lot of credit for that. She also doesn't get as much credit for her lower register. Her low notes are quite low. The average singer, again, certainly soprano, mezzos are going to have trouble reaching a lot of those notes. And then for a lot of people, it's not, can they hit the note or can they not hit the note? It's, can they sound good singing the note, right? So like if I think of the lowest note I can hit in my register, it's pretty low, but it is not going to sound good when it comes from me. It's not a note you're going to want to hear from me very often. And I'm an alto. So, she doesn't get as much credit for how developed the lower part of her register is. She doesn't get a lot of credit for how jaunty is a word that I used. Her vocal choices are, how she's always willing to ping around an octave or even above or below the octave that she is singing in, jump all around within it. And write songs that way, but she's gotten really good at singing songs that way, and it's not easy. So that's what I made my video about, and it is something that I do believe, because one thing I think as I've gotten older, I have come to appreciate a wider range of voices and vocalizations, I have come to appreciate voices that don't sound anything like mine. You know, a good example of this, and I really feel like I'm about to say this man's name wrong. I want to call him Bon Iver, but I think it might be Bon Iver. And here's what I will say about that white man, Bon Iver, which if you know that quote. Anyway, here's what I'll say about him. The first time I heard his voice was on Exile with Taylor, and I did not like it. I did not like it. I was into that song. He started singing. I was like, who is this? Who is this man? And I didn't like it. But then the more I listened, the more I started to really like the song. And as I started to really like the song, I realized I kind of like his voice. And then when I heard him on Evermore, I liked it more. And now I have only heard him sporadically on a few other songs. His voice is very different from anything I've really experienced, but I like that. I like that it's different. So I've come to a place as I've grown, as I've matured, to enjoy different voices and to listen for things that are difficult, even if they don't necessarily on first glance sound difficult to me. So I say all that to say, it's not that I'm saying I think Taylor is the best vocalist of all time. I don't think that. It's not that I'm saying I think she, of her skill set, singing is her top skill. I don't think that. I think songwriting is her top skill. What I do think is that she does have a lovely voice that she has worked very hard to improve. And she has skills and techniques that people underrate and overlook. And as someone who has spent a lot of time now listening to her catalog, particularly the later part of her catalog, I have really come to appreciate. And that's what I'll say about that. And with that, let's turn our attention to my mutual, Jen Hamilton, who I love, whose content I love, whose spirit I love. I've spoken about her before. If you don't follow her or aren't familiar with her, she is a registered nurse. She recently released a book called Birth Vibes that is about, she's a birthing and delivery nurse, labor nurse. It is all about labor and delivery. It became a New York Times #1 bestseller. And while in the midst of her book tour, she found out her husband of many years and father to her children has been cheating on her, and she filed for divorce. She's leaving him. Now, in the beginning, she announced it kind of, I think maybe in the comment section or whatever, and then pulled away from that and then said I regret doing that because now everyone's talking about it and I don't want everyone to talk about it. And my commentary at the time was, I very much feel for her. Out of respect, I'm not going to say anything about the marriage. I'm not going to say anything about that man. What I will say as a creator is it is very hard to put something back in the box, right? It is very hard to put something back in the box. Once you've shared it on your platform, you've effectively made it public consumption. And it is hard to put back in the box. And that is part of the reason why I share very little of my personal life, and certainly almost none of my personal relationships with anybody on my various platforms. If I'm talking about my life, I'm talking specifically about something happening to me. I'm talking about my business that I sold or that I almost folded. I'm talking about the grief that I'm going through and how Taylor's music has helped me. I'm centering me. But what I'm not doing is when I am, having a tough time with a friend or in an argument with my husband or wishing my sister or my mom didn't do XYZ, I'm not bringing that to the internet because I don't want people to feel comfortable commenting on it. And I know once I put it out there, I can't put it again back in the box. So that was my commentary at the time, just very much wishing Jen well and hoping that she is able to go through the process as peacefully as she can, recognizing that cat's out of the bag. Okay. Now she is in a different place because based on the videos I've seen her make, it sounds like when she first announced the divorce, I don't know if she did or didn't know about the cheating, but she certainly, to use her words, didn't realize he was living a double life. That's how she has put it most recently. Her husband was living a double life. So maybe she knew something, but not everything. I don't know. But she has said, when I made that first video and videos of me crying and saying I wanted us to be amicable and he's such a good father, blah, blah, blah. I made those videos before I knew the double life. Now that she knows, it's a different Jen we are getting in these videos. It's a different Jen. It's angry Jen. It is no holds barred Jen. And she has said, like, listen, this is how I'm processing it. This is how I'm grieving the loss of a man I thought I knew. And that is absolutely her right. I have no problem with it whatsoever. If this is helping her, and she's also said, like, and also not only is it helping me to process this way, but if it can help anybody else, then this is how I want to do it. I want to grieve out loud, and to use her words again, I believe she said, I want to heal out loud. And, in the hope that somebody else will be helped along the way. I have nothing but respect for that. Nothing at all. A take, however, that I have seen and that it did make me think, was she revealed that the woman her husband has been cheating on her with for however long is quite older. She is 56, I believe. And Jen is in her early 30s. I want to say Jen is like 31, 32. And she just said, he's been cheating with me and someone who's like over 20 years older than me. Okay. She might be 35. The point is, she's in her early 30s. This woman is in her mid 50s. And now that detail, who knows why it felt important for her to share the detail, but certainly it has now become a detail that a lot of people on the internet are using for fodder, basically saying like, ew, he left you for a grandma. to just sum up what the gist and the vibe is for a lot of these comments. Now, Jen has never said that. Jen has never said anything to the effect of, ew, how could you leave me for a grandma? Or like, oh, she's this old hag. Jen has never said anything like it. And she wouldn't, I don't think. That's not Jen's vibe. She might think it. And I think you are allowed to think whatever the hell you want to think about the person who cheats with your husband. I think you are allowed to think the worst, cruelest, most horrible thing about them. That is your right. So if she is in her mind calling her an old hag, she's earned it. However, I do think the point that was being made from this woman whose takes I do get served a lot. I don't think I follow her, but hold on, let me find it. Chelsea Fagan. I don't think I follow her, but I get served her takes a lot. Her point is, this is ageism. Like, just quite obviously, to just say that someone simply by virtue of being in their 50s, like insulting them simply on that point, clearly is ageism. There are a lot of reasons to think that lady isn't shit, because according to Jen, she definitely knew her husband was married. So there's a whole lot of things we can say about that lady. But her being in her 50s and insulting her for that is just ageism. Basically, what Chelsea is saying in her video, and we'll include, a link to her video, is there's this implication that it is so impossible and unbelievable that a 30-something-year-old man would be attracted to a 50-something-year-old woman. And she's saying, like, that belief impacts all of us women, because we will all, God willing, live to be in our 50s. And it would be weird for us all to want or believe or assume that suddenly being in our 50s, we are no longer sexually desirable, or to limit ourselves to assume we will only be desirable to men our age and above. Like, that doesn't help any of us if that is the prevailing narrative, particularly when we all know men in their 50s are seen as attractive to women of much, much younger ages. The other thing Chelsea says, and she, I believe, is quoting someone here, although she doesn't attribute the person, ageism is just self-hatred on a time delay. I thought that was so smart. I had never heard that before. Again, I believe she's quoting it from someone else. And so when you say you heard it from me, you don't have to attribute it to me. But I think that is so smart, because ultimately it is. Don't we all want to live to be 50 something, 60 something, 70 something, 80 something? I'm sort of hoping I make it to the age of science where we figure out how not to die, because I'm deeply afraid of death. That's a conversation for another day. I would like to live to be very, very, very old, and I would like to still be considered worthy of love that whole time. Worthy of love, worthy of admiration, worthy of being thought of as desirable. And so I think about it here again, not because I think there's anything wrong with Jen thinking whatever she thinks and feeling whatever she feels about that lady. She absolutely can and should think whatever she thinks. And frankly, the angry internet mob, I don't know that I care that much about them, lobbing insults in defense of Jen. But as it relates to this point, I do think it's interesting that once her age was revealed, so much of the collective response was, ew, gross. Why would he go for a 50-something-year-old woman? Like, well, I mean, Jennifer Lopez is 50-something years old. If Jennifer Lopez walked up to any man in his 30s, you think most of them wouldn't at least give it a shot, married or not? Or at least I should say, think about it, married or not? I'm not saying this lady looks like J-Lo. I find that very hard to believe. But I'm saying, like, you can be in your 50s and be desirable. And I do find it interesting that sort of the collective was, oh, no, why would he do that? Like, I think we can understand why. And cheaters cheat. Sometimes it doesn't even matter if the person is attractive or anything. Like, it's like, oh, they're willing. They're here and they're willing to live this terrible deceit with me, this deception with me. And that's enough. Just food for thought. And with that, let's turn our attention to this article in The Cut. The title is Call Her Mommy. Gen Z women are paying for and parenting their boyfriends. It's a long article. It's well written. They interview several Gen Z women who have effectively been bankrolling their less ambitious boyfriends for many months, sometimes years. And they talk about the fact that young women right now are going to college at higher rates, so earning higher degrees at higher rates, and being successful, and contrasting that with what's going on with young men. So I'll read a couple of excerpts and give you my thoughts. The story opens with a girl they're calling Michaela. This is a pseudonym. She did not want to be named. It says, at first, Michaela didn't care that her boyfriend worked for Instacart. He had just finished college after all, and she was in her senior year, busy writing papers and trying to figure out her adult life. But once Michaela landed a full-time job as a reporter at a local newspaper, just a few months after graduating, she started to see things differently. She moved into her own studio apartment and still found the time to freelance for extra cash. Meanwhile, he was living at home with his parents and in no rush to put his economics and history degree to use. I would send him links to jobs every couple of weeks and he wouldn't open them, she said. He just wasn't motivated to find anything. She picked up the bill when they went out to dinner and bought them tickets to see Chris Rock and Bill Maher. The latter, she says, was her boyfriend's choice. Sometimes she'd help him deliver other people's groceries during their date nights. Okay, so right off the bat, they are painting a picture of a young girl who has her shit together, is making her moolah, moved out on her own, and is dating a man who seems to be very content with his Instacart gig economy job, very content living with his parents, and not really making an effort to do more. Eventually, she helps him get a job on a campaign. It says she helped her boyfriend land a job with Kamala Harris's campaign by getting a well-connected friend to flag his application. After that, he started working for a state representative in Philadelphia. Now he makes $42,000, about half of what she does, but their 5-year-old relationship still feels stuck. Okay, so not only was she in the beginning the main one with the job, But when he finally got a job with a salary, it was because of her. So you can see they're painting a picture of a bit of an imbalance here. Then they add some color by talking about some of the stats surrounding Gen Z in the workplace. The author says, since the dawn of paychecks, women have made less than men. But while the overall wage gap persists, some Gen Z women are living through a more hopeful reality. They are 10 points more likely than men their age to get a college degree and are more likely than their male peers to find work once they graduate. While pink-coded jobs in therapy and healthcare are growing at record high rates, there have been hiring dips in traditionally male-dominated fields like tech, finance, and blue-collar trades like construction and plumbing. A few years ago, a Pew study found that in a handful of cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C., young women are actually earning more than their male peers. With that extra money, they are also buying almost twice as many homes as young men and saving for retirement at higher rates. Women of this generation are more likely than any other time in history to date a man who makes less than them or who makes nothing at all. Okay, and it goes on from there. They give many other examples of young women, just like anecdotal evidence of young women who are very ambitious, who have a job, who are saving, dating men who are not doing any of these things, and men who feel very comfortable with that. So one of the points that the author makes is you would think, these men would feel emasculated, but a lot of them are actually enjoying the fact that they are being taken care of. They don't see a need to change it. And I thought this was very interesting. And they almost feel as if they are supporting feminism by working less and by not chasing after the jobs. They are supporting feminism. Let me find a quote because this actually was very interesting to me. Okay, so about halfway through the article, they're talking about a woman who's going by Naomi and how her boyfriend didn't pay for anything basically because he didn't have a real job. Okay, they say, but perhaps the most enraging part of their now finished relationship is that Naomi's boyfriend used politics to justify his apathy. He considered himself a communist, read Marx in his spare time, and was part of a friend group full of other jobless men who found it embarrassing to care about work. They hate the finance bro, Naomi says, but in their push to reject that, they're now doing nothing. Michaela, who requested a pseudonym along with the other women in this story, has clocked a similar phenomenon. She says her boyfriend and his friends are super granola, crunchy liberals who see striving for power as anti-feminists. They want to separate themselves from predatory CEOs and men on the right who think women are working pretend email jobs and shouldn't even have the right to vote. They think treating women respectfully cannot exist with being a hyper-ambitious provider, she says. They think if you make six figures, you'll suddenly wake up and hate women. That blew me away. Oh, that blew me away. That blew me away. I wasn't ready for that. These Gen Z ladies, y'all are talking about something. Y'all are on to something with this. Now, again, this is anecdotal. But I can see how one might get there. Do I think it is a flawed conclusion to reach? Yes, but I can see how one might get there because if you think about what we are told from conservatives and on the right, it is that men should be the provider, women should be at home. And in fact, some of what they have said as they have worked to strip rights from women is that women are taking the good jobs that the men should have. The men should be the ones doing these jobs, not the women. And so if you are opposed to that ideology, I can see how you might say, oh, if the right thinks that I should have this job and a woman shouldn't, if I disagree with that, then ipso facto, I shouldn't have that job or any job. I can see how we have made a case for that. Obviously, that logic is not sound. It is not sound because you can disagree with the conservative agenda and the conservative narrative that men are the only ones who should have the jobs and women should be at home. You can disagree with that and still believe that you should have a job. Is these two thoughts, like, you can just think we should both have jobs. It doesn't have to be an either or. It's not a zero sum. Men and women can both have jobs. It's not as if like, oh, they think only men should work, so I'll do them one better and think only women should work. No. You can believe that we can all work. We can all contribute to our home. And the other thing, and they talk about this in the article, is if what you think is, I don't want to have that high powered job, that is not what is alluring to me, you still have to contribute to the home. So what is your contribution going to be? If it's not going to be a job, then are you the person keeping the house clean? Are you the person grocery shopping? Are you cooking? Are you planning the vacations and organizing the trips? Are you making sure that the presents for our family members are purchased? Or if you have kids, are you taking care of the kids? Are you driving them to the doctor's appointments, picking them up from school, being the main point of contact with the school? There are a lot of ways to contribute to a home beyond finances. But if you're not going to do the finances piece, certainly you've got to do the other pieces. And what this article talks about is that for so many of these young women, they're not seeing the men do either. Okay, you've rejected capitalism, you're a communist, but you're still not doing the laundry. So then what are you doing? You know, like, you can't say, oh, I'm a feminist, so that's why I'm not going to work, but then also say I'm a feminist, but I don't do any housework. You can't have both. You can't have both. It is very interesting to me. And I will say, as someone who is a very ambitious woman, who has multiple jobs, who sees myself always having multiple jobs, and who has a relationship with my husband where we have worked out the differing ways that we both contribute to the home. It is not always easy, but you do have to have very direct conversations about, okay, here's what I'm contributing. So here's what that means in terms of like what you need to contribute, and vice versa. Like these things can't go unsaid. They can't be presumed, and they can't be said passive aggressively. They've got to be said directly if you want direct results. But I just find the whole conversation very, very fascinating. I didn't realize Gen Z was dealing with it to this extent, because I will say, as a millennial, I know a lot of millennial women in a similar boat, where they are the primary breadwinner and they are having to have the conversation with their male counterparts of, okay, so then what does our life look like? If the financial responsibility falls primarily on me, which responsibilities fall primarily on you? That's just a conversation you do have to have. And I know plenty of millennial women having it. I didn't realize Gen Z was having it too, which is what made this article very, very interesting. I recommend reading. We'll include the link. Yes, it's behind a paywall. Pay your little money or find a paywall remover. You know, it's not my business how you read the article, but I do recommend reading it. It's fascinating. And with that, I will end with what I'm reading. I just finished, finally, Yesteryear. By finally, I don't mean it took me a long time to read. It took me less than a day. It took me a long time to decide to read it. And then I had to wait. It was on hold on my Libby app for like 12 good weeks. But I did decide to read it, and I did read it. What do I think? I might actually make a longer TikTok about this book, just because this book has been on so many like must read lists, book of the year lists, most read lists. It's just been on a million lists. Also, it is being made, I think, by Amazon Studios. Like, it was sold to Amazon Studios, and I believe Anne Hathaway is starring in it, and she might also be producing it. So there was so much buzz about this book before it came out. Written by Caro Burke. She's one of the co-hosts of Diabolical Lies, a podcast I subscribe to and have spoken about many times. So much hype around this book. But I never felt compelled to read it because of the premise. If you haven't heard, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the premise is a woman who is a trad wife influencer wakes up, finds herself in the middle of the 1800s, in the 1850s to be exact, and basically has to live the life she's been more or less cosplaying as an influencer, right? That's the premise. And to me, nothing about that sounded compelling. First of all, I don't like trad wives. I don't like what they promote. I don't like the sentiment behind it. I don't like it. So I didn't think I'd really like the trad wife part. And certainly I don't love the idea of a book while slavery is still in existence. Like to me, just felt like I'm not going to like any part of this book. So why would I read it? But there was just so much hype around it. And I knew a part of the reason I wasn't reading it was because I was being a hater, because I was being jealous, because I am a bit jealous of Caro Claire Burke. She has a huge podcast. She has a book deal. I don't have a huge podcast. I have a podcast, which I love, and I love all of you. It is not as big as hers, and I don't have a book deal, despite the fact that I've been trying to get a book sold. So yes, I was jealous. I'm human. And I was like, I am not going to let my jealousy be the reason I don't read this book. Now, the premise, again, doesn't sound like a book I would like. However, part of the reason I'm not reading it is jealousy and being a hater, and I don't want to be a hater. I do not want to be a hater. So I finally read the book. What did I think? Well, I gave it 3.5 stars, which on Goodreads, I gave it 3 because they don't let you do half stars. For the first half of the book, I will tell you this. I was not enthralled. It pretty much had all the things I thought I would dislike. It wasn't compelling. I'm not compelled by trad wives. I don't know that getting a deeper look into them as people is that interesting to me. But then, in my opinion, she didn't do that great a job of giving a deeper look into them as people. Like, even if I wanted that, personally, I didn't think she did a great job of the excavation. Second half of the book, it definitely picks up because it becomes a bit of a mystery, more of a mystery, and I think is a bit faster pace. We spend less time per chapter back in the 1800s of it all. It's moving more quickly, and it's a mystery. And once I'm in a mystery, then I'm like, well, now I got to solve the mystery. Okay, so I think it became more gripping and more intriguing. But was it super thought-provoking? A little bit, but only to the extent that you really want to try and understand these people who cosplay a life that no longer exists in a time period where the vast majority of us would have been worse, way worse off. And I feel like I know why they do it. Hello, the money, not for funsies. So it's not compelling to me, but even again, if I thought it was going to be, I didn't find her excavation of it to be particularly compelling. So she got 3.5 stars because I did feel like certainly towards the end, the tale and the whodunit or the mystery of it all became more compelling. But as far as thought-provoking literary fiction goes, for me, nah, it fell quite short of that. Curious to know what you thought if you read it. The book I'm reading now that I'm very excited about is called Runner. It's historical fiction, which typically not my thing at all. Set in the Prohibition era, about 2 women who basically become rum runners because it's the Prohibition era. Obviously, being a rum runner, that's a man's job, but these women are doing it. Plus, there's a bit of a murder mystery whodunit involved. Plus, there's family dynamics at play. There's a little bit of romance. It feels like a lot. And then I'm learning, and this is one of the things that I said that I didn't like about Yesteryear. I am learning because it's set in Martha's Vineyard. So I'm learning about Black people. Did I mention it's all Black people? It's Black people. It's Black people in Martha's Vineyard. And Martha's Vineyard has long been kind of a safe space for Black people. And so you're learning how it became that and sort of how that community developed. And then you're also learning about the rum running trade and the Prohibition. I like when I'm learning something in a book. I don't want it to feel like a textbook. I want, as the story develops, for me to feel like I have learned a thing. And I didn't feel that way at all about Yesteryear. So again, that was another reason why for me it was a bit disappointing. Anyway, Runner, I will just say it is by one of my homegirls. Her name is Ashton Lattimore. This is her second novel. She is a brilliant writer. She and I went to Harvard together. She's fantastic. She's amazing. And I just finished chapter 5. So I'm not even 20% of the way through yet. Maybe I'm 20%, but so far loving it. And that's what I'm reading. I want to know what you're reading. I want to know what you think about all the various things. I'm in the comments, girl. I will read it. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.